Okay, so my name is Sandy McLeod. I live in Toronto, Ontario. I've been in Toronto for probably 25, almost 25 years, but I did take a break over the past year and I went out to the Quebec border to renovate an old farmhouse that was in my family. And I'm very, very, very thankful to be back in the city. And I have picked up my business here of painting, house painting, and doing plaster and drywall work. I've also had a 3-year stint doing an internet radio show, talk radio show, that was hosted by Roy Mitchell. I created and produced it with Roy. And it was basically, we talked about queer arts and politics and happenings in the neighborhood and queer events. We would have up to like 3-4 guests a week. We did the Rhubarb Festival for 2 years in a row. We had not a bad following. It was a good show. It was a lot of fun. I have a book that's coming out in, very soon actually. And it's a queer book. It's about a little kid who goes into the bedroom closet and finds an all-accepting world of other beings. It basically has to do with gender roles and how putting gender roles on kids is a bad thing, basically, as a lot of us know, and how damaging it can be, and how this character, little Jackie, copes, little Jackie's coping mechanisms with that, which I've drawn from a lot of my own experience being a kid and from whenever I was a kid and having to deal with some very strict gender roles that did not apply to me at all, and how the manipulation of even parents or society or teachers or anybody, how when you manipulate someone into expressing themselves differently, the damage that can actually do. I knew I had to tell a story that had happened to me when I was 4 years old, or something that I saw when I was 4 years old. And I, from there, built a whole story and world around that, dealing with feelings that I had had at that age. So the story basically kicks off with the main character feeling heavy, oppressive clouds coming down from every corner of the room and sinking that little person deep down. And the little person goes into a closet to find safety and crawls into a clothes hamper. And when that character looks up into the keyhole, they can see all swirling different colors, and a big dragon floats up. And that was something that I saw whenever I was a little kid, at that age, or I thought I saw, or whatever. And I carried that with me for years and years and years and years and years. I think I had a lot of fear and anxiety. Well, I know I had a lot of fear and anxiety whenever I was a little kid, and I think that that's what that was. And so through this book, I got to explore a lot of those emotions. Being shy pathologically, which I think I was whenever I was younger and still can be, and how you can basically learn to live in your head and express yourself in your head if you can't do it outwardly. Yeah, I grew up in the country. You didn't have a lot of resources if you were a little queer kid, and I knew I was a little queer kid back then, and you just learn how to suppress that and how damaging that is, or you learn to hide it. You know you have to hide it, and how do you know you have to hide it? I've always been interested in painting and plastering and fixing things, and yeah, but I didn't really get to express that until I came to Toronto. I have realized how much easier it is to be able to do stuff like that whenever you're in the city, in a bigger city, and people don't bat an eye. Some people do, but a lot of people don't when you're, you know, a woman going in to do what is considered a man's job, male job. But I did notice that when I went back to renovate that farmhouse out in the country, I noticed just dealing with, even having to deal with getting supplies, and how difficult that was, and how you would be sized up, and you know, people would point at their arms and like, how could you do that? Like, is there going to be someone there to help you? No. Yeah, and so I had to deal with that, and how frustrating that can be. And when you end up getting snotty with someone because you've gone into the same store for how many times now, and you're still getting the same runaround trying to get materials delivered to a job site that you're working on. Yeah, just how frustrating that is, and how they're like, you know, well, why are you getting upset? Like, what's the big deal here? You know, it's annoying. It's annoying. If I was being labeled a dyke out there, or if anybody knew that I was a lesbian out there, I have no idea. But I do know that my gender was an issue. The fact that I'm a woman was an issue when I was doing this type of work. Mm-hmm. That was an issue. That was definitely an issue. And I would get the runaround an awful lot. Not by everybody. Some people were incredibly nice, but there were people that were like, wow. It's not even a gay or straight thing. It's a gender role. It's being put into those gender roles, you know? There are lots of straight women contractors, just as, you know, many probably as there are lesbian contractors. But being stopped by some guy that says you can't do this is just not going to fly. Yeah, I mean, I've written quite a number of short stories before, but I mean, they're not. But this is my first serious piece, and I'm working on the second one and the third one. Through the next two, I'm going to continue exploring these feelings, and I had one hope of these books that I'm putting out would be to like kind of open up that dialogue. You know, being tied down into or being put into a peg of a certain gender role, and that kid is not that person, and how frustrating that can be. And I mean, to have grown up in that atmosphere, I mean, I look back this past year, I think I look back and I just said, you know, oh my God, how did I survive that? And I knew at the time, whenever I was a little kid, at a very young age, I'm like, it is going to be a problem. Like, you just know it's going to be a problem. And it was a problem, and it affected me. It impacted my life negatively, but thank God I can look back on it and at least, like, how frustrating would it be to know that you're being manipulated, but you don't know, like, you don't have the words or the verbal skills to articulate it, you know? But going back as an adult, you can articulate it quite well. And it causes problems. It causes a lot of friction.